up? It's Way Up with Angela Yee on a Wealth Wednesday. And I have a special guest, somebody who I actually met at the podcast summit. And we've been trying to figure out how we're going to make this happen. I told you we would because this is valuable information. But we have trademark and business attorney Rosezena J. Pierce, Esquire, here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for making it happen. I'm happy.
It took a while, but the timing was amazing.
Yes. Nothing but perfect timing. You know, sometimes we want things to happen in our time, but God is always right on time.
I got to ask you, Rosezena, how did you get that name?
It's actually my grandmother's name.
Really?
Yes, and I really didn't think I knew anyone with that name besides her until I got older, and I met someone else who has a different spelling but pronounces it the same way.
All right. Well, it's beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And so when we talk about trademarking, right, this is something that is really important as far as protecting your brand. But some people don't understand like how to go about it, why it's necessary, what the steps are to take it. We've seen a lot of trademark cases happen, especially in this entertainment business. I mean, in every business, but in fashion and entertainment. So talk about why it's so important to trademark when you have your own brand.
You know, Angela, I always ask people, will you build a house on land you don't own? And would you build a house on land?
Nope.
So everyone always says no. But then I say, well, in turn, why do we build these businesses and these brands if we don't own them? And it's really the same equivalent because so often we see people who are building a nice business, great marketing, great product packaging, all to have it torn down by a cease and desist letter because they did not do the proper steps. You know, when you file your trademark through the USPTO, you get a different set of ownership rights to the brand name so that you can make sure what you're building is protected, and not only just protecting it so no one else can tear it down, but also protecting it from copycatters and counterfeiters and
people who can
infringers.
Benefit because they can cause confusion.
Exactly.
It could be the logo too, right? You trademark a logo and somebody might have a logo similar to yours or a name that's similar to yours, or sometimes the exact same name. We see this just happen with Tesla, and there was another company that was called Tesla. I think they're currently doing a lawsuit with that. Another one that's in the news right now is Pharrell versus Pink.
Okay.
So
I missed that one.
He has a company, I guess it was called P.Inc.
Okay.
And then she felt there would be some confusion because she's pink. So I don't know how that's going to go because sometimes I can't tell what's going to work and what's not going to work.
Yeah, so the good thing about trademark law is it's not about what's the same, but what can be deemed confusionally similar, right? And so will there be confusion is the big question. And so, you know, I don't know, how is Pharrell, do you know how he's using that word pink?
I think it's in some entertainment capacity while you're talking about it, and I'll talk about some other ones. I'll look it up. What are some cases that you've seen where something maybe has, you know, just give us an example where somebody had a brand and it really like caused their brand to go away because of a cease and desist or having to like start all over again?
Well, so basically there's a lot. There's a lot of
like
situations.
Give us an example so people could understand it.
So actually there's one where, you know, even Caesar from Black Ink, right? He has his issues where he tried to file his trademark himself. He started his tattooing business. And sometimes a lot of people don't understand that there's 45 different classes under trademark law,
right? Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
Yeah, so Caesar, when he filed his application, he filed it for tattooing services. And so when he had his dogfighting issue and was fired from the show, he couldn't understand that because he thought he owned the name and he owned, you know, the name Black Ink. Well, when he did his deal, Viacom actually filed the trademark to register it for entertainment services. So that's when it becomes very important. And then there's another young lady, she had an issue back in the day where she actually, I think it was based here in New York for a skin and esthetician company. And she filed her trademark for her esthetician services. And then Kim Kardashian, who has a lot more money, filed the same name, right? But in all these other different classes. And so it's like it can cause reverse confusion because Kim has the bigger brand. So people would think, oh, my God, like she took Kim Kardashian brand. But it was her brand.
It was hers first.
And they were able to, you know, work something out.
Because it's like a bad look for Kim Kardashian to do something like that, too, when it gets a ton of press.
Exactly.
And you're poaching somebody else's.
But and the thing is, that's why it's so important that everybody does research before they file brands and adopt brands, because I don't know if Kim knew about the young lady here in New York first or
Sometimes
not.
it's innocent.
Yeah, sometimes it's innocent, right? And sometimes people don't know. Like LeBron James has a issue right now with a trademark, and it's more than an athlete. And there was an actual trademark for the registration for more than an athlete. And it looks like the nonprofit organization filed the trademark application themselves, right? And so then what happens is there's a part in the process, the government may approve the trademark, and then anyone in the public has 30 days to oppose it. Well, LeBron James came and filed that similar trademark in all these other different classes, and the trademark office approved it. And so now this nonprofit organization filed a lawsuit against LeBron James for $33 million, saying that their brand name. But then the question becomes, does your registration actually support your $33 million claim? Right. So it's, it's so important.
That's why you need a lawyer.
Yeah.
Because this is a lot.
It is.
And imagine a lot of times when you start a business, sometimes you may not know how well it's going to do.
You don't.
And if you haven't taken those proper precautions, like you said, you're not going to build a house on land you don't own.
Exactly.
So you have to make sure that as part of starting your business, you are protecting your brand.
And also just doing the research first, right? Like doing the research. When we go buy a house or we're buying land, we do a title search first to make sure that there's no liens on the house or anything like that. And before you adopt your brand name, you definitely want to make sure that you have done a clearance search for the word so that you don't get into issues where someone is now suing you because they're saying your brand is confusingly similar. And sometimes the people will go to the USPTO.gov and they'll just search the name and nothing comes back, and they'll be like, oh,
okay,
I'm
we're all
good. Right? But then if it calls so somebody, you could go search Starbucks and say, I'm going to open up a coffee company.
Because Starbucks.
Right? And Starbucks is definitely going to come and say, no, this can cause confusion. Shut the brand down, right? So it's very important that you understand the nuances because, anyone can file the trademark application, but it's about, is it going to have protection? And then once you get registration, is it going to be able to be strong enough to enforce your rights in case you have an infringer?
And you've worked with some amazing people too, like Angela Simmons, Twista, Sierra Gates. That's good that people are knowing that I need a professional. What are some of the first steps you would tell somebody they need to do?
The first step I would tell someone is develop a unique name, right? A lot of times people like to just pick a name to like easily call people to their brand name, right? Or so like say, beauty industry or beauty studios, right? That's common because there might be other companies who want to use the word beauty studios because it's descriptive to the services, right? So first, make sure that you're developing a unique name. The most unique names are going to be the best type of names to get registered and then also protect from any infringers, right? So think about like Nike, ExxonMobil,
right?
Kodak, right? Disney. Those words have no meaning to it. So first and foremost, when you hear those names, you really think about those companies, but then also too, their competitor has no excuse to use those names,
right?
But
it's not a real word.
Exactly, to infringe on their brand. So first, just start with a unique name.
When I was coming up with a name for this show, that was hard, right? Way Up with Angela Yee. And somebody told me, I don't know if this is true or not, but they're like, whatever you do, don't Google it because then people could see you're Googling something and then try to snatch that from you.
So I believe that, so domain names are very important. When you're starting a brand, you definitely want to make sure if you're going to start searching that name, especially in a domain like search engine where you're going to buy that name, I believe that there are some cyber squatters out here that have tracking device to see what name people are searching. So if you are going to say, hey, I want to search Way Up with Angela Yee, and you search it,
somebody's going to grab it.
Well, I would just say if it comes back and the domain name is $20 for the year, just buy it.
I just had to do that for my building in Midtown. We had to come up with a name for the building.
Yeah. And
so I was like, I went and saw that there was nobody that owned the website.
Yeah.
And so I just bought it right away.
Yeah.
It was like $20.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me just grab this, and then I told everybody this is what we're going to call it. But even coming up with this name, when you look on Instagram and you're trying to see if there's a page for it, somebody might see that and snatch it up, and then you'll be very upset to not be able to have that.
So what I say first and foremost is do the search, right, to make sure that the domain, and then hire an attorney, right, to go through the trademark process and search it there because, again, you might be able to have that domain name. But say, for instance, if you did Justice Do It, right? And the domain name is available, right? And now you want to do Justice Do It, and you want to put apparel on there and gym, and, you know, and gym shoes and sneakers. We say gym shoes from Chicago. But if you want to put that on there, Nike is going to have a problem with that.
Yes,
and they're
will.
still going to shut that website down. And don't make the mistake of spending thousands of dollars on a domain name and you haven't cleared the rights to the name first, right? I know people who have bought domain names for $25,000 only to get a cease and desist letter where they had to shut down their whole website because it was infringing on someone else's brand.
Oh my God, what a waste of money.
Yes.
You know, recently we saw those Mischief, like Timberland boots. Did you see those?
I didn't
the Mischief. And they're like these sneakers. Remember when everybody's wearing those big red sneakers? They look like cartoon sneakers.
Yeah.
But then they did the Timberland ones.
Oh my
and
God.
I was like, how are they able to do this? I'm going to show you what these look like. And I was like, how are they? Because I know Timberland did initially have an issue with it. But somehow they were still able to get away with this. But I just want you to see it.
So and sometimes companies have to weigh their options. Like, do we let this go, or do we actually file a trademark lawsuit? Like, who is really going to wear these things? How far are they going to go?
What is Mischief? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I think Timberland should do something about that. Like, when you said the big red boots, I was like, who?
Well, they did those first, but then they did these Timberland ones, the same company.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I feel like they didn't make a lot of them, maybe, and that's
but
why.
Also, too, now their argument can be that that's just the standard construction boot, right? As long as
there
they're
are other construction boots that look like they're wearing Timberlands.
Yeah. So as long as they're not using the Timberland logo,
right,
and putting them on the boots, they're really not infringing on Timberland's brand. You get what I'm saying? So it's just, so that's why it's important, though, as business owners and brand owners, that we do own our name, our logo, and our slogans, because people will try to use them in different ways. Now, that to me just looked like a construction boot, but the moment they attached the Timberland logo on it, now Timberland has
it was
a
like a
trademark.
little tree. Okay.
Oh, did they put a tree on
No,
it?
no,
Oh, I was gonna say now Timberland, because that could be a likelihood of confusion, right? Don't give them no ideas, Angela.
I want to ask you, what made you to say, I want to be a trademark and business attorney?
So I am from the west side of Chicago, and there is a lot of things that go on. And I knew I wanted to be an attorney since I was 5 years old.
Okay.
Been exposed to the criminal justice system. You know, my father went to prison. My brothers were in prison all at one time. And so I just wanted to do something more impactful, more different. My father, he came home. He really wanted me to do criminal law because he knew half the judges at the county jail. And I was like,
networking.
Right. I was like, no, Daddy, I'm not. And he was like, and really, like 4 years after being a lawyer, my father would still call me like, such and such in jail. Can you go get them, go see what they're charging them with? And I'm like, Daddy, that's not what I do.
Right,
but
that's not my scope.
But we're going to call somebody else to help such and such. But I knew I wanted to do something as it related to business and international business. And I thought I wanted to travel a lot, see the world, and not being selfish, but I finished law school and I studied intellectual property a whole time in law school. And I love just working with, you know, brands and then coming out and seeing them in the world and just knowing I had a part of that. But I finished law school not having any job offers. I thought I was going to work at a big corporation or a big law firm, had no job offers. And it was a professor who told me, he said, you know, I said, I don't have any jobs. You know, I got 3 kids at home. Just did my, you know, passed the bar the first time. What am I going to do?
Okay.
Yes.
Let's give it up for that. Pass the bar the first time. That is not easy. We were just talking about that.
Nah, especially with 3 kids and
at home.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And she was an infant at the time, so I was having a lot of
That's
mommy
amazing.
guilt. Yes, but so then I fell into a depression because I was even on my law review, my intellectual property law review at school, and you know, it was only 2 black people on there, me and the other guy, and everybody else that didn't look like us all had job offers.
Wow,
you know, it's like
wild.
when you're finishing law school, it's like, you know, being drafted to the pros or whatever, and we didn't have any job offers. And I was like, dang, if I could, you know, just I really want to do intellectual property law. And talking to this professor after passing the bar, you have to take a professional responsibility course. And I say God makes no mistakes because he is the one who planted the seed. And he said, you know, what do you want to do? I said, I want to do intellectual property. And he said, well, you'll go a long way serving the underserved. And I said, well, I don't want to do criminal law because I just thought about home real quick. And I was like, I don't want to do that. And he was like, no. who is underserved in your practice area? And I said, small business owners. And he said, you'll go a long way serving them. And I'll tell you, fast forward 11 years later, I was looking at those big corporate jobs because I'm like, oh my God, this is how much I can make. Never made that much money. But, building my own business, have done that, and sometimes in a month, times. But also, too, now my firm is ranked above all of those law firms that I applied for to work at.
I saw that out of the top 50 firms, and these are already the top 50 firms
in the U.S.
Out
of over 28,000 of
yes,
them. Yes.
Trademark law firms. You're in the top 15 of those top 50.
So I'm ranked top 15 out of trademark lawyers in the country, which is over 33,000 trademark lawyers in the country. Thank you. But the firm that I built and started, and I have an amazing team. I have 3 other lawyers that work for the team. We're in the top 1%, so we were ranked number 40.
I love that. See, God had a plan for you.
God had a plan. I have to stop asking him why and just say what's next, because I say to that, because I really wanted to work at these law firms, and I say people's rejection is God's protection, because he knew he had a bigger plan for my life, and I was trying to get under their name, and he had put me above their name.
Sometimes when your back is against the wall, that's when you fight the hardest and really make it happen. Yes. So I love that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And even just your spirit and energy, because like I said, I met you, and then we were talking about like making this happen, and I was like, we got to make sure at some point that we get you up here on the show to talk about this, because you live in Atlanta now.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
All right. And so the other thing I wanted to ask you about was some of the brands that you've helped, because this is a critical piece of, like we just talked about, protecting a brand, helping a brand to grow and scale. How does it feel for you when you've been part of that process and you get to see the success of other people?
It's amazing. We always tell our clients, your success is our success, right? We have over 5,000 clients that we represent and 5,000 brands that we're helping at the creation of their brands. I have a client, she was a young entrepreneur, started her business at 16. Her and her mom were homeless at the time.
Wow.
They, got an award from Joe Biden. They've been featured on Shark Tank. The products is now like in Target and things. But then they had some issues just recently where, a lot of us want to get in retail spaces and things like that. But what we don't know is it can become taxing.
Oh, tell me about it. We have some products in Target and Whole Foods. My coffee company, Coffee Uplifts People. And it costs money to be able to put that on the shelves, and then you got to sell.
You got to sell. And so they were having an issue where Target called them and said, look, the products is not moving as fast enough, and if we have to ship it back, we have to charge you.
Yep,
right?
There's chargebacks.
And the crazy thing is they shared their story that the deal we thought they got on Shark Tank did not go through, did not happen. And so, I was just like, okay, what can I do? I'm going to post this on my social media. Everybody in Texas, because I have clients all across the country, everybody in Texas, just go buy a bottle of the sauce, right? And the brand is Sienna Sauce. Shout out to Sienna Sauce and her mom. They do great work. And, the news came out the next day just to support them. People were ordering off of their website and things like that. And so that's what helps me and make me feel good about the things that we do when we help our clients promote, their brands. And, people always ask, well, what's the difference between you and the other companies online, right? The ones that there's really not a lawyer and there's not
you're just going online and doing it and filling it out, but you're not going to get that individual guidance and help. And like you said, there's so many different things I didn't even know until you came up here and talked to me about it today, where I'm like, I better make sure.
Yeah. And it's so crazy.
I'm about to be a client.
Yeah. So I have a lot of clients in the beauty industry because I was a licensed cosmetologist before I became a lawyer. And
girl, you done did it all.
Girl, it's
with
been,
3 kids.
Yeah. I had to do something to take care of them kids.
You're amazing.
Yeah. But so, and I finished high school with my cosmetology license because I knew I was going to go to college and things like that. And where I'm from, as long as you finish high school, that's good enough for everybody. Like, you graduate high school, that's good. But I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. But basically, what I was saying was I have a lot of clients in a beauty space. And, the difference between me being someone's attorney or our law firm representing them, I can connect my clients to people I mean. And just so happened, one of my neighbors, he has helped other big brands, beauty brands like Seale Organics, Kaleidoscope, right? He helped connect them.
They've both been part of the show. Mayel sponsors the show, and we already had for Kaleidoscope, we've had her up here too. So
yeah, absolutely.
shout out
So
to our
he
girl,
helped
Judy.
them and he helped them with their manufacturing and product production and things like that. And so he's my neighbor. He lives right in my community, right? And so now I'm connecting him with my clients so they can do the same thing as well.
Listen, y'all, she don't live in a house. She live in a community, okay? We got to get to that point. But you worked really hard to get there. And we got to celebrate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be able to go home to your house and be like, we did this.
Yeah, I was looking, and it's so crazy because my house now was not my first house that I bought in Chicago, but I was like, oh my God, this is growth. And then I know it's growth because I feel a little guilty because I want this other house now. And I always see it. I always see it on Instagram. It got the pool in the backyard with the waterfall coming out. So it's like, oh, I got still so much further to go. But that's just, I feel like it's the Spirit of God challenging me to my greatness, right? And it's like sometimes people say, well, you shouldn't wrap things in material things and things like that. But no, like,
you deserve if you work hard, you should not feel guilty for the things that you are able to do because you also are doing a lot to help other people.
Exactly.
So why not do things for yourself?
And I feel like it's a disservice to God if we don't be great, if we don't operate in our excellence, right? And so if we just sit and be comfortable and we settle, how is that giving him his true glory, right? Because, by giving him glory, people get to see the great things he have done for you in your life. So if I just sit back and be comfortable in my nice house in my community when I know I could get this really, really,
which, by the way, could be a great investment because the hope is that it'll appreciate in value.
And it has.
And there you go.
It has. It definitely has. And it's so crazy because it just takes me back because I know you're into real estate too. And I remember there was a time where someone was telling, the Black community, we shouldn't buy houses. And I know this is not a real estate talk, but that just goes back to the importance of ownership, right? Even through Trademarks, real estate. So when you look at the top wealthy people in this country, they're not wealthy because of burgers, shakes, and fries. They're wealthy because of their real estate portfolio and their intellectual property portfolio. And why stocks. In stocks, and why this person was out telling people mostly that look like us, we should not buy homes. I actually moved to Georgia 2017. I said I wouldn't buy a house there until 2021 until I knew, if I wanted to be there or not. But 2020, something very odd happened, COVID. And so, at the time, my landlord was not checking on me to see if I was good or anything. She still wanted her rent payment. And I was like, you know what? This is the time I need to be an owner, right? And I bought my house July 2020 when the interest rate was like 3 point something.
I did.
And
I bought my house during COVID too.
Yes,
and
it was
my interest rate is 3.25%.
Yes. And the thing is now my house has appreciated almost double its value.
See?
So why, but now think about it. The community I lived in before I bought the house is the same. To rent a house there is the same payment as my mortgage right now.
That's right.
So when it goes back, you have to go back to ownership. It's so very important.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would say the first house I bought when COVID hit, I owned my house, right? And that's the house I was living in until I bought this other one. And I felt very secure knowing that if God forbid something should happen, I have a place to live.
Exactly.
So I didn't have to worry about paying rent. My mortgage was paid already. I had a 2-family house, so I had a tenant. So I know that could support me if all else fails. I always think about that. And my house is worth double what I paid for it already. So it is. I don't agree with the don't buy a house. Now I don't feel like you should buy a house anywhere. And there are certain situations where it's not always a great thing and it's not a great investment as with any investment. But there's way more ways that you can do your due diligence and get into a great situation. And another thing I learned, and just from hearing you talk about that too, is your first house doesn't have to be your dream house, last house.
Exactly.
It should be a good investment. It should be what you can afford. It shouldn't be something that's going to break you. But it should also be something that this was, something that later on I can sell this, make money off of it, and get what I really want.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And everybody ain't meant to be an owner, right?
Yeah, everything's different. Right now, it might be best to rent because the stress of home ownership is a real thing.
Yeah, for sure. But the thing is,
just like the stress of entrepreneurship is a real thing.
It's so very real. So very real. And I don't think a lot of people talk about it enough. But also, too, I just thought it was just a bad taste in my mouth to hear, this person who's supposed to be a thought thought leader telling all these Black people not to buy a home, and I'm like, wait, that don't make sense.
I feel like I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but we don't need to even give them no honor.
Right.
But just know, like sometimes, and that's too important too. Who are you listening to? Who are you consuming? Who are you getting your information from? Right? Not that I was going to listen to, but imagine all those people that did listen to.
There's people that will go and then they also spread that to their community. Like, well, I heard from this person, and they know what they're talking about because they on
boats and
All right. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much, Rosezena J. Pierce, for coming and joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Make sure y'all check her out. Where can people find you?
So they can find me on Instagram. Is the best platform for me, which is The Biz Lawyer, but I understand everybody is not on Instagram. So you can also find me at our website at securethebrand.com. Okay. And if anybody have any questions about trademarks, they can book a 15-minute consultation for $30 with our firm, and we'll explain the trademark process to them.
That's right. $30 to make sure that your business doesn't get no cease and desist and that you start things on a nice, stable foundation.
Right. Now, we'll just say this really quick because people will call and be like, Angela said it was $30. The trademark process is $1,500. Right. But to the call, yes. But we'll give people say, oh, it was only $30.
And that's a good way to get started, to understand what you need to do and then understand the cost that's involved with it too and the different levels of that. So I think that's important.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much again. SecureTheBrand.com. Make sure you check it out. And I appreciate you. And, congratulations to everything you have going on. You have such an amazing story to see where you are today and how you made it to this level, even though there were obstacles in your way. So you thought, but it wasn't.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy this came
Me too.
to pass.
All right.
You.
It is Way Up. Happy Wealth Wednesday.